This is a review of Chapter 1, The Human Body for Anatomy and Physiology 1. The definition of anatomy is the structures of the body, and physiology is how the body works. There's also levels of structural organization. One is chemical level, which is atoms combined to form molecules. Then there is the cellular level, which is the unit of life, where molecules form organelles, which make up the cells. There is a tissue level, which is two or more cells working together. Then there is the organ level, which is two or more tissues forming an organ. Then there is the organ system level, which is two or more organs working together. And then there is the organismic level, which is organ systems creating an organism.
The organ systems start with the integumentary system, which regulates body temperature, skeletal system, which supports body organs, the muscular system, which maintains posture, the nervous system stores information, endocrine system secretes hormones, the cardiovascular system transports blood and pumps blood to the heart, the lymphatic system houses white blood cells, the immune system protects from foreign invaders, the respiratory system carries oxygen throughout the body, and the digestive system breaks down food, urinary system removes toxins, and the reproductive system produces offspring.
There is also necessary life functions and survival needs, which include irritability, which is your body's reaction to a stimulus. There are survival needs such as oxygen, nutrients, water, and maintaining your body temperature. Including to that, there is homeostasis and control mechanisms. Homeostasis is
the ability to maintain relatively stable internal conditions even though the outside world changes continuously. Along with homeostasis, there is homeostatic regulation, and which consists of the receptor, which measures particular variables and sends the information to the control center. Then there's the control center, which decides what to do with the incoming information. And then there's the effector, which does what needs to be done and carries out the information.
As well as that, there's also two methods of homeostatic regulation, including negative and positive feedback. Negative feedback is basically the variable trying to return to the center. It works against the stimulus, and examples of this would be body temperature. Positive feedback is working with the stimulus. Examples of this would be childbirth or blood clotting or labor contractions. Following homeostasis, there is such things as homeostatic imbalances, such as insulin resistance or diabetes. Something is not going right with your homeostasis. On top of that, there's also the language of anatomy, following anatomical positions, which is the body standing forward with palms upright. There are directional terms following the body, such as superior and inferior, meaning superior is towards the head, inferior meaning farther away from the head. There's also anterior or ventral, and posterior or dorsal. Anterior meaning the front of the body, posterior meaning the back of the body. There's also medial versus lateral. Medial meaning closer to the center point of the body, and lateral meaning farther away from the center point of the body. There's also proximal versus distal, and superficial versus deep. Some examples of this would be such as the lungs are deep to the skin, or skin is superficial to the muscles.
Next are the body planes, which consists of the transverse plane, which runs horizontally from right to left, dividing the body into superior and inferior parts. There's the frontal plane, which divides the body into anterior and posterior parts. And then sagittal is the vertical plane that divides the body into right and left parts. There's also mid-sagittal, which is right down the middle of the body, and parasagittal.
Next, there are body cavities. There is the dorsal body cavity, which is the back of the body, which consists of the cranial cavity, which is your brain, and the vertebral cavity, which is your spine. Following that, there is the ventral body cavity, which is the front, which has many parts, one including the thoracic cavity, which houses your heart and lungs. In more depth of that, there is the pericardial cavity, which holds your heart. There is a visceral pericardium, which is the layer that is around your heart. And then there is the parietal pericardium, which attaches to the body wall around your heart. Following in the thoracic cavity, there is a mediastinum, which includes of the esophagus and trachea, all in the thoracic region. There are also two pleural cavities that house your left and right lung. There is a visceral pleura, which covers the actual lung, and there is a parietal pleura, which covers the lung wall. Following that, there is an abdominopelvic cavity, which includes your abdominal cavity and your pelvic cavity. Your abdominal cavity has a visceral peritoneum, which surrounds the inner organs of the abdominal cavity. And then there is the parietal peritoneum, which is surrounding the abdominal wall. The pelvic cavity also has a visceral peritoneum and a parietal peritoneum as well. Same deal, visceral peritoneum covers the surrounding organs in the pelvic region, and parietal peritoneum covers the pelvic wall. There are certain organs that are located in the 9 regions and the quadrants. There is the liver and the gallbladder in the right hypochondriac region. In the left hypochondriac region, there is the diaphragm, the spleen, and the stomach. In the left lateral or the lumbar region, there is your transverse colon and your descending colon. Underneath that, your left inguinal or your iliac region, there is your sigmoid colon and your urinary bladder. Your umbilical region really just consists of your small intestines and your belly button. Towards the right or the lateral lumbar region, you do have your ascending colon and your small intestines as well. And below that is your right inguinal or iliac region, which consists of your appendix. The urinary bladder is in the pubic region as well. They all kind of go together very closely.
Next, we're going to talk about the 9 abdominopelvic regions. The umbilical region is the centermost region deep to the surrounding umbilicus. The epigastric region is located superior to the umbilical region. The pubic region is located inferior to the umbilical. Then there's the right and left iliac regions, which are located lateral to the hypogastric. There's the right and left lateral regions, which lie lateral to the umbilical region, and the right and left hypochondriac regions, which lie lateral to the epigastric region, deep to the ribs.
Following that, there is the 4 abdominopelvic quadrants. There is the right upper quadrant, the left upper quadrant, the right lower quadrant, and the left lower quadrant. Going into more detail about the cirrhosis membranes and cirrhosis fluid in the thoracic cavity, cirrhosis membranes produce cirrhosis fluid, which is the fluid that covers the organs, which we go into visceral and parietal. They basically help the organs not stick together.
Last but not least, the other body cavities consist of oral, which is the mouth, digestive, which is all your digestive organs, nasal, which is your nose, orbital, which are your eyes, and middle ear with synovial.
And that is the review of Chapter 1.